The late night hosts are all off. That doesn't mean I didn't save any jokes from last week. These are about Trump not being able to move to Mar-a-Lago. Fallon said, neighbors are like, this is a classy area. We can't be associated with a one-term president. Fallon again, I'm not surprised nobody wants Trump living next door. Most neighbors asked to borrow some sugar. Trump's like, can I borrow $400 million? Fallon, it would be ironic, though, if Trump does move there and then his neighbors build a giant wall next to him. I love that joke. Corden, can you imagine not being allowed to live somewhere in Florida? That's dark, man. That's dark. Corden again. Do you know where they want him to go? Far-a-Lago. On Saturday Night Live, there's a tradition where Michael Che and Colin Jost will trade jokes and make each other read jokes that the other has written. Did I explain that right? Probably not, but you know what I mean. Che wrote this one and made Colin Jost read it. Now, the setup here is you may remember that Jost is married to Scarlett Johansson, who once received flack for defending her right to play Asian characters, trans characters, and trees. And here's the joke. It was announced that Creed singer Scott Stapp will play Frank Sinatra in an upcoming movie, but the good news is Sammy Davis Jr. will be played by Scarlett Johansson. Fantastic joke. A few hours before Saturday Night Live, Jim Carrey suddenly said, hey, though my term was only meant to be 6 weeks, I was thrilled to be elected as your SNL president. I would love to go forward knowing that Biden was the victor because I nailed that stuff, but I'm just one in a long line of proud fighting SNL Bidens. Suddenly, Jim Carrey's not Joe Biden. Did Lorne realize the impression was terrible? What's going on here? Very suspicious. I mean, Alec Baldwin guested for 4 years. Jim Carrey lasted 6 weeks. Sounds like some revisionist history there to me. Alex Moffat takes over Joe Biden now. In the opening sketch, Beck Bennett, as Mike Penn said, you look different somehow. Moffat, as Biden said, I'm like Colonel Sanders. Every time you see me, I'm a different guy. There's a good chance that this time next year, I'm going to be Mario Lopez. The Guardian wrote about SNL, and they were a little worried that the show's going to center its cold opens around Maya Rudolph as Kamala Harris as the true power behind the throne. They say this would be a massive mistake, not only because it would continue the show's over-reliance on guest stars, but also because the characterization of the Biden-Harris dynamic is total wish fulfillment for both dopey liberals and right-wing conspiracy mongers with no potential for incisive satire. Wow. Have you ever seen Better Off Ted? Better Off Ted was a short-lived sitcom. I think it lasted 2 seasons on ABC. It is fantastic. If you see it on one of your streamers, you should watch it. Variety writes a decade after being cruelly canceled by ABC for dumb reasons such as low ratings. Better Off Ted will be reuniting its cast over Zoom to raise funds for feeding America and the coronavirus pandemic. I hope they're not raising money for the coronavirus pandemic. Oh, I misread it. For feeding America amid the coronavirus pandemic. Now, I could just recut this whole segment, but I think my mistake made it funnier. Yes, they're raising money. They are pro-coronavirus over at Better Off Ted. No wonder it got canceled. The reunion is December 27th at 6 p.m. Eastern. Tickets on playperview.com. Donations $20 and up. I think you can freeload if you want, but you shouldn't. Dani Zoldan, you know him. He's the guy that pantomimes too. No, he's not the guy that pantomimes. Dani Zoldan is the owner of Stand Up New York. I've been talking about him a lot. He tweeted, I think this was Saturday night, maybe Sunday, and his tweet, I'll be on NBC News talking about our storefront being vandalized, plus the inaction of our city officials to help small businesses. And other news, there's a new SNL right after with a live audience, and we did a comedy show in a subway car tonight. So what's all this about? From the West Side Rag, Stand Up New York, 78th and Broadway, nice club, you should go, was vandalized on Friday. Someone spray painted over the window, covering up photos of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris that have been set up inside the window. The vandal also painted partially over a menorah set up inside too. Dani explained what happened. New Banksy artwork or vandalism? Well, this sucks. Someone felt the need to spray paint over pictures of Biden and Harris in our menorah that were displayed in our storefront. We're neither Democrat or Republican. We're fiercely independent thinkers, and we're not shy of standing up for what we believe in. Stand Up New York has been protesting city and state rules that have kept the club closed during the pandemic, arguing it's not fair for Saturday Night Live to do shows with a live audience when small clubs have to shut it down. Today's Daily Comedy News is brought to you by Podcorn. Told you last week about Podcorn, and hey, let me double down on this. You know those advertisements I read Friday and Saturday for free lunch coffee? You know where I got hooked up with those guys? Podcorn. Podcorn is a marketplace that connects podcasters like me to amazing podcast sponsorship opportunities like the Free Lunch Coffee guys. And you can do host-read ads, interview segments, topical discussions, and more. I was on there on Monday morning. I got the weekly email that said, hey, there's a whole bunch of new opportunities. So I reached out to the video game people. I reached out to the podcast people. So I'll see some more ads come in. With Podcorn, there's no middleman. You set your own rates. You collaborate with the brands directly. I went back and forth with one advertiser. I'm like, hey, I could do this. Now, how about you do that? I'm like, yeah, no problem, man. I'll move the date. Happy to do it. Nice and easy. You do it right on the website. Piece of cake. No exclusivities. You don't give up any rights to the podcast. There's transparency, freedom, full control, how you monetize, when you monetize. If you don't want to have an ad in the show, you don't have to have an ad in the show. I like money. I like ads in the show. I'll put a link in the show description if you want to sign up for Podcorn and start monetizing your own podcast or advertising on podcasts like this one. Much thanks to Podcorn for sponsoring today's episode. Izzard announced she will now be using she and her pronouns. This from Chortle. The comedian revealed the change in the recently broadcast final of the Portrait Artist of the Year Awards. Throughout the program, presenter Stephen Mangan and the contestants and judges referred to Izzard using the she and her pronouns. Asked why she wanted to appear on the program, Izzard answered, I try to do things that I think are interesting. This is the first program I've asked if I can be she and her. This is a little transition period. It feels great because people assume they just know me from before, but I'm gender fluid. I just want to be based in girl mode from now on. Back in 2017, Izzard spoke to The Hollywood Reporter saying if you're coming out as transgender or gay or lesbian, it's such a tough rite of passage and quest. It assaults your senses because back in 85, everyone said, no, hide about it. The humiliation period, the initial period is so tough. If you keep at it, it gets better. Fame makes it easier for me, but then again, I'm quite well known in America. But I can find you a lot of places where they wouldn't want to know me, and I'm just some transgender guy going into the loo or shops. But fame can also help some young kid because he can say, I'm like that person there. As a positive role model, that's where I see fame helping, like Caitlyn Jenner. Now, her politics are not so good. She's very slow on getting on a gay marriage, but still, a lot of people in America can now talk about it because it's further out there in the public domain, so that has to be a good thing. I've previously mentioned Eddie will be running a marathon challenge, a Run for Hope, beginning on New Year's Day. She will run 26.2 miles on a treadmill every day of January, and then perform an hour-long gig every night. Good job, Eddie Izzard. Hey, this next thing, way to not promote this in advance. On December 22nd, tonight, Steve Buscemi will be hosting a virtual event called Fireside Chat with Steve Buscemi. Joining him, Adam Sandler. So it's hilarious. Judd Apatow, Chris Rock, Kevin James, Julie Bowen, Rob Schneider, Kenan Thompson, Colin Quinn, and more. Again, Sandler, Kevin James, Schneider, Chris Rock, Colin Quinn. That's pretty good. All funds raised from the event will be going to the Friends of Firefighters. It's a cause Steve Buscemi knows well. It's tonight, 7 p.m. East. You can stream it on IGN's website, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook page. My tooth has turned gray. One of you out there must be a dentist or have some sort of dentistry expertise. I'm screwed, right? I'm going to the dentist tomorrow, and it's going to be nothing but bad news, right? They're going to totally... I figure at best I'm in for a root canal, but this is not going to be good with the gray tooth. I would love to hear from my dentistry listeners. You can tweet me at DCNPod or hit me up on Facebook.com/dailycomedynews and tell me how hosed I am. If I do go to the dentist and my mouth gets ripped up or, this turns even more horrible, maybe then you'll start to hear all the generic episodes. I'm trying to figure out how to play the weekend. I have 11 episodes pre-recorded for a rainy day, or if I get sick, or say your tooth turns gray and you get a root canal and you can't talk for 3 days, or maybe it's a holiday weekend, or who knows what happens. So I've got 11 of them. And realistically, I don't expect a lot of downloads on Christmas Day. So I'm trying to figure out, all right, do I drop the 2 episodes about Adam Sandler movies? Do I do the top 30 movies of all time, comedy movies of all time? Do I do the Simpsons one? I don't know. But also in my little work pad here, I've started sketching out fresh episodes for the weekend. So I don't know. Don't know yet. I might just do the Simpsons one on Christmas Day and keep everything fresh and new and hold on to the emergency stash, because you never know. But if I'm not here, I'm probably at the dentist. That's your comedy news for today. Again, say hi and Twitter at DCNPod, Facebook.com/dailycomedynews. Follow the show on Spotify, subscribe on Apple Podcasts. I appreciate you listening every day. See you tomorrow, I hope.